Lost persons stories are some of the most chilling accounts in the world of horror. Not because of monsters in the dark, but because of the terrifying truth that people can vanish without explanation, logic, or trace, swallowed by forests, mountains, deserts, or even quiet towns, leaving behind only fragments of confusion, fear, and unanswered questions that claw at the minds of those left behind. In the dense expanse of the Bennington Triangle in Vermont, countless hikers have stepped into the trees and never returned, their tracks simply ending mid-path, as though the earth itself decided to reclaim them. One of the most puzzling cases was that of Paula Weldon, a college student who entered the woods in 1946 wearing bright red, a color meant to be easily spotted. But searchers found nothing. Not a shred of clothing, no footprints, no signs of a struggle, nothing but eerie silence and whispers from locals who spoke of lights in the sky and voices that lure wanderers deeper into the forest. Then there's the strange tale of the Australian outback's lost campers, where the harsh, endless red sands seem to erase entire human beings. One group of 4 travelers in the 1980s stopped to rest near a remote desert track, only for rescue teams to later find their vehicle idling with the doors open, supplies untouched and footprints circling the car in confusion, before suddenly stopping in a swirl of sand, as if the people dissolved into the air or were dragged below the surface by something unseen, something patient. Mountaineers tell their own stories of terror, including the nightmare at Dyatlov Pass in 1959, where 9 experienced Russian hikers fled their tents half-dressed in sub-zero temperatures, some with crushed ribs and missing eyes, others frozen mid-run their tracks, showing they had cut their way out from the inside of their shelter in such panic that they chose the blizzard over what lurked within. While theories range from military tests to avalanches, locals whisper about the Mansi spirits said to wander the mountains, angered by trespassers in sacred land, and old searchers talk of hearing screams echo off the slopes long after the bodies were buried. In the Pacific Northwest, thick forests that stretch endlessly are home to hundreds of disappearance reports, many involving children who vanish within seconds. One particularly disturbing case involved a 2-year-old boy camping with his family, who wandered behind a tree and simply never reappeared. Dozens of search dogs unable to pick up a scent and helicopters circling for days to no avail, leading to tribal legends being invoked about the stick Indians, shadow beings that mimic the voices of loved ones and lure victims into hidden places between worlds. Even more terrifying are the accounts from seasoned hunters and park rangers who speak in hushed tones of finding clothes neatly folded on rocks beside streams, shoes placed carefully side by side, or belongings arranged in patterns no animal or panicked human would create, as though the forest was tidying up after a meal. Some rangers admit to hearing footsteps pacing outside their tents at night, though no prints appear by morning, and several have quit their careers after searching for missing hikers, only to hear their names called from the darkest parts of the woods by voices that sounded exactly like the missing. Urban disappearances are no less horrifying. In bustling cities, people step into elevators, alleys, or parking garages and are never seen again, like the infamous case of a young woman in Los Angeles who entered her apartment building, was caught on camera behaving strangely in the hallway, glancing over her shoulder, hiding, pressing multiple elevator buttons, but then vanished from the premises entirely, only for her remains to be discovered weeks later in the rooftop water tank, a location sealed and requiring tools to access, raising questions about how she got there and whether something followed her in the shadows. Children lost in crowds have been found hours later with no memory of where they went, often repeating that a tall man with no face told them to be quiet or they had never go home, while others are never recovered at all, their final moments, captured only as a blur of motion on security footage before they re-swallowed by a blind corner or open door. In Alaska's Bermuda Triangle, which spans Juneau to Anchorage, over 16,000 people have disappeared since the 1970s, including entire planes and experienced bush pilots whose distress calls end mid-scream radar, detecting objects that seem to rise from the ground and vanish into cloud cover in unnatural bursts. Indigenous stories speak of Kushtaka shapeshifters that appear as lost children or loved ones to lure travelers off safe trails and into glacial cracks. Even rescue workers are not safe, with some reporting static-filled radio calls that sound like the voices of the missing, begging for help miles from where they were last seen. Yet when teams arrive, there's only silence and the feeling of being watched from behind trees or rocks, a sensation so intense that grown men have broken down, refusing to go back out after dark. Deep-sea disappearances complicate the mystery even more, from divers who sink below the surface, attached to guidelines only for the line to return slack and empty, to fishermen whose boats drift ashore intact, but abandoned meals half-eaten, and cigarettes still burning as though they stood up in unison and stepped off the edge of the world. Phones of missing persons have been found to dial loved ones days after vanishing, with nothing but static or distant breathing on the other end. And in some horrifying cases, GPS trackers show impossible movements through solid terrain or across vast distances in minutes, defying any natural explanation. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of these lost person accounts is how often searchers report the strange sensation that the missing were near, like someone standing just beyond sight, breathing softly, the woods growing unnaturally quiet as though holding its breath. Some speak of finding children miles from where they vanished, sitting calmly on cliffs or high ledges as if placed there carefully, claiming they were helped by the blurry lady or the tall man who told them to wait until someone came. These true accounts, scattered across decades and continents, echo the same eerie patterns. People vanish in places believed to be safe, sound is swallowed, time distorts, and traces stop in ways that make no physical sense. Whether it's unknown predators, hidden caves, parallel spaces, malevolent entities, or the land itself reclaiming trespassers, the result is the same. People go out to enjoy the world and are never seen again, leaving behind search parties, questions, and the chilling knowledge that if they could disappear, so could anyone at any moment without warning, into the hungry silence that waits just beyond the trail's edge.